So today I'm going to talk about why soul power and soul strength is so important if you are a light worker. What does soul power and soul strength actually mean? So before I start, I think one of the things that I should say is that often in the spiritual community, a lot of words are used very, very loosely, with often different interpretations. And it's like even when you study things like counselling and psychotherapy, different types of healing, different types of therapy, even how they define the ego can mean lots of different things. So sometimes it depends on what kind of teachings and what angle you're coming in from. When I'm going to talk about the soul, just for this session, if you have a preconceived idea what the soul means in relation to even maybe religious cultures, let's put that to the side. And for this, I suppose, talk, what I'm going to explain in the way that I am going to be expressing how I explain this and what I mean by when I talk about soul power and soul strength and why it's so important if you're a light worker, if you really want to genuinely create a soul-aligned business. So first of all, I believe that the soul is that access point where the highest dimensions of light and God, but it's your soul essence. It's the essence. It's like almost that point where it's almost, to me, it's like your connection to your God spark, right? And I believe when we talk about the God spark, we all have the God spark within us, but we all come in the world with, it's like a combination of gifts, right? Strengths. And obviously we do have vulnerabilities as well. And often the vulnerabilities come with their life experience, and they may come with other past experience and even things through our ancestors and all sorts of things. But when we talk about our soul essence, for example, it's the purest element of us, right? At its core, our soul essence is in many ways magical. It has the potential for miracles. It is the expression of God in its lightest form, because I know that sometimes people's interpretation, and even the word God can mean different things to different people. But it's that aspect of light, the highest dimensions of light. But every single person, even though we are all part of the one, right? We all come in with a different purpose, but with all different, it's like almost you get into a sweet shop and there's all different shapes and sizes. Some are more mature, some are not, some are more younger, and they all have different energies, different tastes, they look different. And when they pop you in the mouth, you might get a different experience. Some might be chewy, some might be more smooth and soft and melt in your mouth. I know that's a really strange analogy, but it's the only one that I thought, right? Now, when I work with people, I think that's the easiest way to explain. When I work with people, my intuitive gifts, and some people might call it psychic gifts, or even my empathic gifts, is that I see and feel energy from that client. And often when I'm working them, particularly with helping them with their brand, and I often see expressions of the energy. And I think because first of all, I'm a very visual person. I understand also the psychology of colour, but not just the psychology. I've studied colour healing, colour psychology, colour therapy. And there's lots of different teachings out of all these things, and sometimes there's different opinions. But for some reason, when I work with people, I see colour, and I see and feel often what's going on in their energy field. Now, that has got more refined and has come through more naturally and more, how could you say, more developed as certain skills, as other skills, as I started to hone in my skills. And what I mean is, as an empath and someone who is, sometimes my sensitivity was so off the chart that it wasn't just mentally and emotionally disabling, it was physically disabling, right? And I don't want to get into that too much, but the level of how much I could feel in relation to energy and vibration sometimes was phenomenal, but very disabling. And a lot of it, even though I was always highly sensitive and highly empathic, after a near-death experience when I was in an experience in intensive care, that phenomena heightened so dramatically, right? And what I realized was an aspect of that was a gift, but also sometimes with gifts, lots of challenges come with that. And it was presented to me as the unruly empath, where I couldn't control what I was experiencing, and I didn't know how to harness that and how to, in many ways, not just protect my energy field, but to be able to work with it. And I think that's the easiest way to explain it. Now, I'm lucky. I'm a healer of 30 years who has studied many different types of healing and been the client of, you wouldn't want to know how many healers. So I work with some phenomenal healers and people class as worldwide healers, and you get to feel so much about different people's energy and how they function, how it comes through. And often, sometimes it's like almost I experience it in different ways. And sometimes the energy feels out there, sometimes it feels really high, sometimes it feels very masculine, sometimes very floaty, otherworldly. There's so many names I could describe it, right? But what I'm often experiencing is not just the person's channel and what they're channeling through, but often when I'm working with them, I'm feeling aspects of their essence, right? Now, what makes someone's soul essence more clear, right? The more that I'm realizing there's a combination of things, right? And I do believe that the essence of you and flows far more easier when, first of all, you get good soul power, good soul strength, and soul connection, right? But I believe that there is lots of different factors and they can mean different things to different people. So let's explain and why I believe this, right? So one of the things that happened on my journey was that I had a lot of phenomena that many healers around me did not experience, and I didn't know. And in many ways, I felt in many ways shamed by other healers because I was experiencing something they didn't understand. But in many ways, it triggered their beliefs, and because they saw it as a rejection of some of the way that they worked, but it was not. It was what was being presented to me for my path. And we've always got to remember is in our own journey, our own spiritual journey, certain things happen in our path for our own learning, and other people may not understand it, may not get it, but there's often a reason why that happens, right? And often certain things happen to us in an individual way to take us to the next step in our journey, and that might be to go and get support in that area, or it may be we explore something, or we look at things from a different perspective or change of perspective. I was forced to see things from another perspective than what I was taught in relation to a lot of healing intuitive things. And along that path, I recognized that lots of people were very psychic, right? And what you would class intuitive. I met lots of mediums, psychics, intuitives. But when it came to probably good soul strength, they struggled, right? And so what I mean by that, and I'll give you examples. So many could, what they believe were perceiving was certain guides or certain messages for spirit or people. But when it came to making wiser, really strong choices at a soul level for themselves, and to be able to see things and feel things that was going on in the world on a day-to-day basis, they struggled, right? And I think there's lots of reasons I think that can happen, right? And if we look at the last few years, one of the biggest, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of people over the last few years in the spiritual community, we've all had different opinions, but a lot of people are coming now to how could you say the same opinions about a lot of things, and many regret certain choice points they made, or where they did not just follow their intuition, but not have to me, it's about a good soul connection and a good soul strength, right? And this is the way I explain it, and I might appear a wee bit clumsy to explain it, but I can only explain it in the way that I can, because I see it energetically and physically, and it's something that, energetically, I sense it and I see it. But I've seen so many people that I know, right, that when it shows it up like this. But what I mean is that it's very easy for us to get so used to certain tools, for example, and give over our power to certain guides and certain things if we're not clearing our inner channel, if we're not clearing our soul connection, a connection that's deep within our own essence of our being, right? That is connected with the purest aspects of ourselves. We can struggle to almost, it's like we get information from the external world, but we're so much getting it from the external world. And what I mean, even the external world as in spiritual connections, right? As in what I mean is channeling from external things, right? That we don't connect in here or connect direct to source. That's what I feel, right? And lots of things can interfere with our soul connection. And I've felt this for so long. I felt this something, but I just didn't understand it, and how it wasn't. I wasn't seeing. I needed evidence to see more of why what I felt was true. And from a young age, I felt. I'll give you an example. So one of the things that I was lucky, and I don't know why, because other areas of my life, lots of us had other areas that I was really not very lucky. But one thing was, I could tap in to my strengths and my gifts quite naturally. And I had this thing always went through my head, that you were here to share your gifts. In fact, what would go through my head is God gave you these gifts to share. And, it was almost like wrong. And I know that's not useful, but it was almost like it was a waste if you didn't share them, because you were given a gift, right? That's the way I perceived it as a child. You were given a gift, and if you did not utilize that gift, it was like you were kind of wasting the gift, right? Now, I was an extremely very shy, introverted, and also many people would say very weak, right? I was, people would class as weak. I was the type of child that was so weak that I couldn't say no, and I could hardly speak up for myself. I was a child that would cry all the time. I was so sensitive and so empathic. And my mum classed me as, too sensitive, and lots of people on my report card at school, Eileen's very, very, very sensitive. And that's the kind of thing, right? And I was brought up to believe that I was weak. And I remember even funny thing happened when I was a child. And friends of mine, they were going on about who would survive in an can't pronounce it as apocalypse. It's in a anyway, right, you all know what I'm talking about. And she looked at me and went, really sorry, but you would never survive because you couldn't do any harm to anybody. Now, so it's interesting because as my life changed and things, I went through like a lot of people really hard times, I realised I was a lot stronger than other people perceived me. And it was a different type of strength. And the more that I understood my strength, I grew, but also I recognised that my strength came from my soul connection, not other people's opinions, not even guides, my strong, clear connection, right? And so strong that the information comes through my body, like often instantly, like I get a clear knowing. So for certain things that happened over the last few years, lots of things, when it happened, certain things happened, I got information right away, like, no, you're not doing that. Or this is, right? And also it helped me, even though I still have, like all of us, we have a bit of the inner child in us, the little child that doesn't want to rock the boat, the child that wants to people please everybody and doesn't want to be hurt anybody, and doesn't, want to make a big deal. I stood my ground with so many situations, even with my family and things, like many of us did. And what made it very easy, and I'm not saying it was easy, but what made it easier was this real strong channel of strength, right? Which, when you've got a really strong soul connection and soul strength, other things don't influence you when you can tap into it. What can change? What are the things that can interfere, right? What are the things? Well, obviously trauma. Trauma can, for example, look at even religious trauma, where people have such distorted perspectives of God, of the light, of whatever. And some people have got so much even trauma in the spiritual community that they go the opposite way, and there's certain vocabulary they won't use, and they give over their power to other things, right? And sometimes people can go into cults and things like that, but they give over their power, or even to other spiritual teachers. They look to them for their inner guidance or whatever. And if everything they say, they go, or they idolize them, they follow them as if they're like, there's some sort of kind of God. So trauma can come in different ways. It can come in relation to your connection, original connection and view of the world and what God and the light is, right? It can also, obviously, trauma can be related to when you come in, the mother and father symbol, where the motherly carer, the nurturer, and the protector, right? Where some elements of that let you down. Okay. Now, everybody's human, so none of us are perfect, no matter if you're a parent or not, and no matter how well you try to do your best for your children, you're going to have your vulnerabilities, and also dependent on often the personality traits of your child, the vulnerabilities of your child, and even the archetypes of your child. That certain things will influence some children more than others, right? So you've got that. But we also have lots of other things that can interfere with soul connection and soul power. There can be things like attachments, curses, all sorts of spiritual and psychic phenomena that is designed or projected to stop someone living their purpose and to stop someone shining the light. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, and it's not been till the last few years that I've thought about it again. I was brought up in a strong Catholic faith, and something that's not really normal in Catholicism is, how could you say, what you would call prophets, I suppose, in modern day prophets are. But there was a woman that my father got friendly, and she was what you would call a class as a Catholic visionary. Now, it's very hard to get people like that proved and whatever. This woman had all these visions of what was going to happen. It's very interesting because the visions that she had are relatable to everything that's been happening over the last few years. But some of the things that I was interested in when I first met her and her husband, was they a wee bit frowned upon because they felt some of the things that I was interested in fell into, how could you say, I suppose they would see it as new age and would see some of it coming from that perspective as maybe getting into occultism and getting into maybe the dark side. That's their perception, right? So they asked me certain questions. The woman was far different. The husband was always a wee bit as if I was tapping into things that they didn't agree with, right? But also they had a certain perception of certain things, right? Which happens to us all. We can, if you come from certain religious beliefs or you've been brought up, even within the spiritual community, even how we see things, we can see things from our own perspective in relation to what we're attracted to and to all sorts of things. But what happened was, I remember her saying to me, and at the time I was very young, she said to me, Eileen, when I see you, I see this vision. And she says, I see a vision through your life where you're like, it's like you're doing, she says, you're a light. She says, it's like your role is being part of the light. She says, but that comes with a lot, it's going to come with a lot of challenges. But you're going to be absolutely amazed, because it wasn't amazed. She used, I can't remember the word she used a different word that she was trying to say to me. But you're going to get through it, and you're going to manage to, no matter what happens. And the more that you are the light, and the more that you're living your purpose, there will be things and situations in your life will try to stop you doing that, right? You will attract lots of situations. And I never really, to be honest, because there were some of the things were so scary that she said, and how it was perceived. Now, looking back, when I think about what she actually said, I can see it in a different light now, because it was just how she explained it and how people were taking the information on the level of awareness at that time. Now, it was interesting because through my life, I've had quite a lot of people say, Melanie, you've been cursed. You have been cursed, right? And lots of other things that I'm not going to go into to do with other phenomena. But one of the things was interesting in my life, and I do always wonder, did it impact my soul power and soul strength? Was obviously, if you have things like curses and other things are protected, karma, other people's stuff who maybe, even if you're, for example, sick, and they keep seeing you as a victim and they're projecting that onto you, these things don't help you. But one of the things was, I had an aunt, and I was named after an aunt who died after being in a horrific car accident, right? Someone who had lots of really serious health challenges. My father had been in a traumatic car accident with this aunt as a child, and he loved her very much, and he named her after it. And it's interesting, lots of things that happened to me, right? Now, I'm not saying that was just to do with that, but there's lots of things that can happen in a soul's journey, right? But what I'm trying to say is, when you are living your purpose, right, there is lots of things that can try and get into the way of your soul strength and your soul connection. Because the reality is, if you're a light worker, you are working in the light, and there is the opposite no matter what. There's the polar. And if you think about a magnet, right, the polarity, people always think, like attracts like and all that, but there's, you've got to look at the polarity aspect and what can happen, right? Now, when we come into the world, I believe that in many ways we come in as God's spark, but of course you can have trauma pre-birth, you can bring other things. I had a situation before I was born, a week before I was born, my mum had a hot rod put up her womb. Now, lots of things can happen, right? If we come in and we're supposed to be this clear God spark, and we have trauma, we have lots of other fears, and I forgot there's lots of other things that can actually interfere with your soul connection and your soul strength. But if we have lots of things that interfere, that can shut down and cause blockages to our soul connection. And let's think about it like a body. When a body is a clear channel and it's the energy's flowing and whatever, and you've got good muscle strength, good body strength, good bone strength, good tone, it is far easier to go and live your life and do whatever you want to do and are supposed to do. If the energy is not flowing, or you do not have good physical stamina, you don't have good bone strength, good muscle, you may struggle to do certain things, right? And you may just not have the same strength and power, right? That is the same as your soul power and soul strength. So what has made the difference by many of the light workers community over the last few years, who have been very switched on and been able to see things that's went on and had more courage and strength, right? Now, I'm not saying that just because someone stands up and says things that means that they've got more courage and strength. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But I do know a lot of people in the spiritual community who would regard themselves as light workers, didn't see it coming, or are still struggling to see certain things and feel certain things. And I'm not saying none of us know all, that's not what I mean. But also not just that, really feel at loss with their connection, feel at loss with their purpose, right? And felt as if things were breaking down. And often that's because we're all conditioned, no matter who we are, to, I suppose the easiest way to explain it, in many ways, we're conditioned like monkeys to be like monkeys, right? And what I mean is that we are conditioned to play certain games and we don't even realize it, and to play the game of life. And we're conditioned to just repeat things and do things without thinking. So much so that people act like sheep, or people just do things because it's easier, or it just feels like an automatic thing. When you are able to remove yourself more and more from that, right, you don't go by the crowd at all. You tend to work more from you rather than what society believes that you should, must, or need to do, right? And also, when you're in when you're in good soul power and strength, you're working from service, right? It's not just a service to self, right? Because you're working from service, but from a real stronger energy. You don't get as tired helping other people. You do it in a more flowing, energetic way, right? In a vibrant way. When we are lacking soul power and soul strength, we get depleted by other people. We get too sensitive to things. We get easily offended. We get easily triggered by other people because we are influenced by the rest of the world. If you want to truly create a soul-aligned business, you want to be building on your soul connection and your soul power and your soul strength. It's not just about, people talk about intuition, and of course there's certain things it's all related. But what I sometimes see is many people who are want to connect, particularly psychically or medium, as a medium, where they want to connect to loved ones or things and bring that through and that kind of information, but they're not developing enough in their soul connection and their soul strength and their soul power, right? And there's loads and loads to layers to that. And for most people, it can take many, many years to really get that clear channel with the soul, and it can take decades. And that's why I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of the clients that I tend to work with that get the most out of my programs are healers that do obviously do the work and have been in the field a little, a wee while. They've not just 2, 3 or 4, 5 years. They tend to have been doing a lot of work. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody, that's not what I mean. But they tend to be at a certain stage. Now, of course, we're at a stage at the moment that people are making huge leaps in awakening, and people that have had no even any spiritual, how could you say, attraction to certain spiritual teachings or whatever, are making mass pivots very quickly into all sorts of work. But the reality is that we live, and we're still living in this, still, partially or mostly, or whatever you would call it. I don't know how you would explain it, 3D, if it's mostly an overall changing energetically and whatever, but we're living in still a very 3D construction where a lot of us have got one foot in one aspect and another foot of most people want to move, right? And we're transitioning and moving from that. And yeah, of course it can hard, even when I'm creating business stuff, even though I work so aligned, I'm still logical, I'm still 3D. I know there's still a practical element of being in a 3D business at the moment, but I'm trying to help my audience and myself move into that transition so we move more into our soul power, right? Now, I've mentioned already I work with lots of healers, and one of the healers that I've been working with the last few years, it's like a master healing course, and you really master your own work, mastering your own connection, your soul connection. And what I like about this man is that he tells the truth no matter what, right? He's not scared to offend you. He's not scared what you think, right? Because he wants to be, well, what he believes is truth, right? But at his core, he is about helping people connect to their biggest strength and their power. And one of the things that he tends to get is lots of healers who actually have terminal illnesses or very complex medical challenges like me. And one of the things that he has seen recently, rapidly, is what I talked about, was curses in energetic forms. And it's quite interesting because he has so many people on who, and I've mentioned this before, like terminal cancers. And we're talking about many doctors very high in their fields, right? And world-known people that work for people very well known. And he's worked with all sorts of people, senators, all sorts of things. And what he teaches is how much on an energetic basis, on a daily basis, light workers are being energetically attacked. And the more that they're speaking the truth, the more they're up leveling. There is different energetic phenomena, and how important it is to clear at a soul level, not just your energy field, but clear at a soul level, right? And to work at a soul level, right? And how many also, one of this is things, and I know that I trigger people by saying this, and people get annoyed when I say this, but I can only speak my truth. But also he talks about that 95% of the healers that he sees are actually connecting into the wrong, like lower vibrational energies, which they perceive as guides, they perceive as angels. And he sees that, and he sees that they're draining the energy. He also talks about a lot of work and healing work and therapy work that can actually drain people's the actual client's energy force, right? And how certain types are, and I'm not like getting into too much, but there is certain types of work that I always had a feeling that was going on for a variety of reasons. Now, you have your own God spark within you. You have this unique soul essence, and you have your unique purpose, right? If you're struggling right now, it could be, yeah, of course, you're transitioning, but there is other things interfering with your soul strength and your soul connection. If you've struggled through the last few years and felt you've lacked clarity or been easily kind of manipulated, if you're the type of person that when you see something online or by the media, the TV, and you tend to believe them without ever feeling energetically within yourself, if that's truth, you need to work on your soul, not just your intuition. You need to work on your soul power and your soul connection. If you feel as if you missed so many things that's went on in the last few years and you're just starting to see things again, you've got to look at your soul power and your soul strength. Now, if this is something that you would like some support with, I'm running a coaching and healing session on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. UK time, and it is a soul power to soul purpose healing session. It is only £33. It's actually just, I think it's an hour and 45 minutes. I might make it 2 hours, but I'm hoping to make sure it doesn't go over the 2 hours, right? Usually, because that's, I've got a bad habit of doing that. But in that session, I'm going to help you dig a bit deeper. I will be doing energy clearing, which, you'll not see what I'm doing, but there is things that I will do to help clear your energy and things. But what I want to do is help you really hone in more and more of your purpose, because your purpose is not static. Your purpose evolves, your purpose becomes refined. Where I started out 22 years ago when I started my business now, it's exactly the same where I am now. My purpose has become more refined as I have got to know myself on a deeper level, understand myself, and been able to unlock and clear anything that was stopping me share different aspects of me and my gifts. But it also evolved as I was on my path and had different levels of awareness, experience, understanding, and was able to harness and evolve those gifts. So it's like being given a tool. If you don't know how to use the tool well, you're only scratching the surface, right? So sometimes I see people call themselves an expert in something or a master in something, but they've only been doing it 2 or 3 years, where the reality is none of us are masters in anything and even then, are we really a master in it? To get 30, 40 years down the line, we're always evolving. Right? And sometimes evolving is actually we change our past slightly. There can be key elements within ourselves that are still part of the purpose. And it may look to other people that we're doing something completely different, but guess what? There's an essence within that is being part of your purpose all along. It's just get more evolved and more refined. And that is what I'm going to be helping you with on Thursday. So I will be sharing more information about that. So I hope you enjoy this session. I hope you're having a great week. And remember, you are unique, right? And it's so important that we don't give our power over to other people, to things, and we go more inward. We connect more into the soul and we trust our own soul than rely on external tools and lots of even external things, and even sometimes external things that come in. It's about honing in within ourselves, because all the answers are within. The power is in heaven and earth, but we need that connection. And yeah, sometimes there's things we need to do to clear the connection, right? But It's something that we all need to work on for a variety of reasons. Okay. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye bye.